Oh, let me read my COVID test results live on the air here. Okay. Your test results. Oh, I got to log in. The suspense builds.
Oh my God, this is spine tingling. Having been in your shoes, my man, let me tell you.
Well, I took a rapid test. Was it yesterday? And that came out negative. So, wrong password. Oh my God.
Oh Jesus.
The plot is getting thick. All right, I'm just gonna not mess around here. I forgot my password. All right, now check my email. Okay, there's the email. Sorry, I realize we're on radio here. You know, this is, gotta commentate and make sure that the listener knows what's going on.
Apparently.
All right, I just wasted precious time giving that explanation. Okay, new password. Oh my God, you can't reuse old password? Son of a bitch.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh my God. This is such a classic.
So many
Classic
twists and turns here.
Cross your fingers, everybody. Folks, we're negative. We did it. We did it. We're negative.
A lot of sweaty people in the booth here, high-fiving each other.
Hello, welcome back. It is week 62 on Out on That Line. I'm Geoff with my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
Geoff, I'm hanging on by a thread right now. That thrilling opening really sent me for a loop. That was a high-octane thrill ride.
I have to, I don't know who I need to write an email to or give a phone call to, but to thank them for the timing of that email. It was just perfect.
Damn, dude. And like I said, having been on the other side of that, when you're just sitting there being like, I really want to go hang out with my friends. I hope I don't have this fucking thing. It's you're on a real set of tenterhooks in that moment, let me tell you.
Yeah, it was a little scary because I've been a little congested.
Oh no.
The last couple days. So that's why. So fiance of the pod, Marla, was going to go anyway to go get tested because she's going this weekend over to Houston for her niece's birthday. She just wanted to make sure all systems were clear. And so I was like, well, I'm not feeling that great right now. So let me go get tested and just make sure I don't bring this thing to work. So I went over there. I'm feeling fine now. But yeah, I was a little nervous because I was like, I actually did not feel great. Felt a little better after the negative test that we did, the rapid one, but it was, I felt like I was on thin ice there for a minute.
It's you start to feel shitty, and then all of a sudden all you can think about is the meme of all the Spider-Men pointing to each other. COVID, cold, seasonal allergies, too dry in my room. And your brain is just spinning.
Yeah, it was not a great time to be alive, but you know what? We're here.
You're alive.
We're alive. And you know what? It may be Monday wherever you are, but here on Out on That Line, it's always the weekend, because this week we're going to be talking about the Weeknd's new album, Dawn FM. Do you like that?
That was smooth as eggs, Geoff. Smooth as eggs.
Well, it
done.
makes sense that we're going to get into a very smooth week right after a speed bump, because I heard there was a little interesting kind of topic you wanted to bring up before we get into the weekend.
Well, and you're the king of the subtle transitions. I'm the king of smashing segues with a hammer. But we're talking about the COVID positivity and vaccines and what have you. There's a little bit of controversy brewing over on Spotify. As of like an hour ago, Neil Young yanked all of his music off of Spotify because of what's going on with Joe Rogan, having all the COVID, the vaccine skeptics and the conspiracy theorists on, and just saying some wild shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Neil Young had enough and said it's him or me. And Spotify gave Joe Rogan a $100 million deal. Neil Young got 6 million streams a month on their platform, so I think they said, well, Neil, our hands are tied, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You have fun over on your website where he posts better quality versions of his song, actually.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, he's always been somebody that is about the quality of the music. I mean, how many iterations of a musical life has he had?
Yeah.
You know, solo artists, and with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yep.
You know, Crazy Horse.
Crazy Horse.
You know, Promise of the Real. He played with them for a bit. Like, he's done a lot of stuff. You know, he's earned to be able to do what he wants to do with his music. And I think he knew. You know, I saw an interesting point. I forget, somebody that writes for Rolling Stone. I wish I could remember. But they made a point that he knew he wasn't going to be the one that won in that battle. You know, he knew what the numbers looked like. That, yeah, exactly like you said. He had 6 million streams or something. And Spotify was paying Joe Rogan $100 million. You know, so it was easy to see. You didn't need a crystal ball to see it, that which way it was going to go. But how much were people talking about Joe Rogan and the misinformation and stuff on his podcast before all this happened? You know, it was probably quite a few, but exponentially more now.
And it really is a symbolic gesture on Neil Young's part. And like you said, he knew it. He had to know it. And he's done that before in many different ways when he made the that Monsanto album. I'm totally blanking on the name. The Monsanto Years or something like that, which was an anti-GMO album. And I read a fucked up article today that was like on the Daily Beast, so take it with a fucking boulder of salt. Neil Young wants to take a moral stand against Joe Rogan for spreading biotechnology disinformation, but GMOs are safe to eat. And Neil Young refused to accept that on Stephen Colbert while there was a guy dressed as a giant ear of corn dancing behind him. And his refusal to accept the science that GMOs are safe is what led us to Joe Rogan having these wackos on his podcast. It's your fault, Neil Young. It's your fault because you were fucking digging your heels in about GMOs.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree, like, because GMOs, I feel like it's a very broad term. And really, I think a lot of it is that they breed certain types of plants that are going to fare better in certain conditions, I think is what a lot of it is. But, you know, I can understand where Neil Young is coming from. You know, wants things to be as natural as possible. Figures, yeah, maybe it's safe now, but if we continue to be okay with changing what Mother Nature is giving us, like down the road, we may run into some problems. You know, he's trying to get ahead of the issues that we're causing ourselves here. But I think it's important that artists like him exist, that are willing to stand up. And I mean, I doubt he was, compared to the money that he probably has in his bank account, I doubt that he really cares much about how much he was making or not making from Spotify. You know, if he wasn't getting that many plays, he probably wasn't getting paid that much money. So it's not a revenue stream for him that I think he really cared about giving up.
Yeah.
And he was able to make a statement and make a point. And I think it's a valid one. I mean, I don't think I've ever listened to the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't think I've listened to a single bit of it. Maybe like clips on Twitter and stuff like that when they happen to be on my timeline. But I mean, I assume that it's as bad as he says it is. I feel like Neil Young doesn't really engage in hyperbole all that much. So is it that bad? Have you listened to it?
Yeah, dude, it got really bad during COVID. So I have like dipped in and out of Joe Rogan before the last like 2 years. And I've like been, like you said, with clips, been keeping an eye on it through the past like 2 years. But like the pandemic sent him over the top. He used to just have comedians on and they'd shoot the shit and talk about, isn't it crazy to be married to a woman? Oh my God, women be shopping. And you're like, oh, it's just the boys. They're just broing out. They're just chilling. They're just doing dog stuff.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened and the vaccines ramped it up and Joe Rogan just like, here's the thing. The people that are taking swipes at Neil Young for standing up against GMOs or for doing this thing where he wants his music yanked off of Spotify in protest of Joe Rogan, you don't have to agree with what he's doing. He's taking a principled stand for what he thinks is right and what's important to him. The fucked up thing to think about is everyone who supports Joe Rogan absolutely thinks the same thing about Joe Rogan, like that it's a principled stand. He's standing up to the mainstream media. He's sticking it to science. One of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life was in a YouTube comment on one of his videos where some woman said, I wish Joe Rogan was my doctor. And you know me, I had to chime in and go, man, with that attitude, you absolutely deserve for Joe Rogan to be your doctor.
Jesus
you can have
Christ. Oh my God. I can't think of anything I'd want less. If I was in the hospital and I saw Joe Rogan coming in to like start giving me my diagnosis, I'd be like, no, I'll just choke myself with the IV cable or IV cord, whatever, and just be done with it.
Yeah,
just awful.
I would just $1 million baby myself and chew through my tongue and like hope for the best. The thing is, like, dude, I don't care. You're allowed to like fucking Joe Rogan. I'm not saying I never watched any because he used to have cool scientists on and shit like that. And it's like, what's it like to take more mushrooms than the human body can theoretically handle? And it's just some little Terrence McKenna gnome sitting there being like, oh, lion's mane. It was just fun, harmless shit for a long time. And now it's just Jordan Peterson sweating buckets. I'll tell you what, bucko, you got to clean your room. And like everything.
That guy's voice is so weird.
He's so weird. And you're allowed to like Jordan Peterson. You're allowed to like Joe Rogan. I like stupid shit too. If that's your thing, that's your thing. But I'm so goddamn sick of hearing about Joe Rogan in the discourse. The irony being we are contributing to it right now. But holy fuck, dude. Every day it's like, Joe Rogan. Half of it's not even shit he's done. It's just the idea of him galls people to such an extent that they're called to arms. And I'm getting to that point, man, where I'm like, we got to do something about him. We got to send him in a Bezos rocket to the moon or something.
Yeah. Maybe we should load them all up. Bezos, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, all of them.
Mark Cuban, you better watch your ass or we'll put you on there. Don't be thinking about running for president. I see you.
Yeah, I could easily do without Mark Cuban on Shark Tank. Easily.
He's not the electric factory that I think people think he is on that show.
Not at all. No, it's Kevin O'Leary.
All day.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two are a gruesome duo.
Yeah. It's wonderful. And Barbara, on the rare occasions these days when she's on there, she's great.
It's a great panel, and I think Cubes is the weakest link.
Yes, he is. He's probably also, I think he's the richest one on there too.
Well, that's probably why he has no personality. He can't afford one of those. We're just throwing jabs all night over here.
No holds barred here on Out on That Line. No holds barred.
I ain't hear no bell.
Well, did you have any other thoughts on Joe Rogan and Neil Young and their little kerfuffle?
No, I think my Alex Jones style unhinged rant probably said all I needed to say and then some.
Oh, let's just bring another one in there. He's a local boy here in Austin. Yeah.
Austin zone.
Well, before we get to the album, I figured this week, I think we do need to mention that we have a Meatloaf tribute episode coming up. We've yet to record it, but we're going to have a special guest. Somebody else that has been very, very active in their Meatloaf fandom, right along with me and Alex throughout all these years. Long time now. What, 15, 16 years, 17 years? I think it's 17 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the first things that I think I did with both of you guys was listen to Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell 2. So to hear that he had passed away was obviously a very, pretty emotionally punishing piece of news to hear. He's been very, very important to all of us. So rest assured, we do have an episode coming up where we are going to give our full attention to honoring the life and legacy of Marvin Lee Aday, a.k.a. Meatloaf. So, The Weeknd, Dawn FM. I didn't really see this one coming. Had this been announced and awaited for a while? Because I feel like he just came out with one, no?
Yeah, I guess dude, time is a flat circle. After Hours came out in 2020.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So he was due for one, but I hadn't seen anything. He was guesting on a bunch of other people's stuff, Post Malone, that weirdo fucking song with Aaliyah. As I think I've said before.
Yeah, I don't think she was in studio for that one.
Yeah, I don't think she had much say in the direction that one took.
No.
But yeah, he's been doing a bunch of stuff with other people. I had no idea he was coming out with an album. This kind of popped out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't know what to expect. I think it's been mentioned on the podcast that we do enjoy a good concept album. And I think The Weeknd has a habit of maybe not like a total linear kind of narrative story, but I think there are common threads that he pulls in each album. Album to album, it changes quite a bit. Like I think this one was far different than After Hours was. I think this was a big departure from what I was used to hearing from The Weeknd, but it was very familiar at the same time because he's just got one of those distinctive voices that no matter what style of music that he might be singing on, you're always going to know that it's him. And there was enough things familiar in this album that I was like, yeah, this is definitely a Weeknd album, but it reminded me a lot more about like of his earlier career, like when he was a weirdo before he achieved like the massive amount of kind of dance club success that he's had in recent years. He used to be, I mean, he always was and still has been a weirdo, but I feel like this is kind of getting back to those roots a little bit.
Yeah, and he's so fucking theatrical. Like the album art for this, always doing the plastic surgery bandages and stuff. He's very theatrical. He's got a lot of flair. And what I really appreciate about The Weeknd is everything has a theme. So yeah, it's shit you can dance to, especially like we'll get into the album, but Take My Breath. Don't you just see a bunch of people rolling on ecstasy, just dancing up and down at a super spreader event,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's morning in America, Geoff. But I appreciate that even when he's making a song like that, it's all on theme. So the theme of After Hours was like the industry and what it turns you into, the kind of person you become as you achieve success. There's a direct correlation to how much you have to sacrifice. You stop recognizing yourself. That's what the plastic surgery, bandages, and shit like that are meant to symbolize, right? Like you're changing to the point that you don't even recognize yourself anymore to live your dreams, but it's destroying you. And there's all kinds of cocaine and drug imagery throughout everything because he's 90% cocaine and makes no bones about it. But yeah, this one felt like, whereas the last one was kind of had an ironic detachment from the subject material and was kind of The Weeknd throwing shade at the industry and who it forced him to become in the context of this narrative. This one was way more personal. It was less about the impact other people have had on him and way more about the choices he's made and the impact that he's had that's reverberated through everyone he's come in contact with. It is like he's not like the deepest lyricist, but the concept is way more cerebral than an album like this has any business being.
Yeah. I think lyrically it might be that this is like as deep as he can swim, but I think it still, serves exactly what it's supposed to. I think that you're not going to get like Sturgill Simpson levels of intricacy in these lyrics. You're not going to get like internal rhymes like you would get with some of the best rappers that exist. You're not going to get that level of like Shakespearean verse, where everything weaves in and out of each other. It's very straightforward kind of storytelling here. And he doesn't make any bones. He's not going to make any like metaphors or anything like that. He's just going to come out and say, and we'll get right into How Do I Make You Love Me, the first song. He's going to come right out and say, I'll fix you mushroom tea. It's not like the Beatles with Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, about LSD. There's no like metaphors here trying to hide with a smile and a nod, what he's really trying to say. He's like, no, I'm going to be honest with you about what's happening here. And I think that is something that The Weeknd does that other people don't. And the reason why his lyrics are so impactful while not necessarily being the most complicated is because they are always telling the truth. It may be that he doesn't know what the truth is, but that's him being honest about that in that moment as well. And I think that's why he's a very interesting songwriter, and the way he delivers the songs too. His voice has just such a unique, like kind of homey quality to it that you feel like he's just singing this to you. Like this is something that he is really trying to express and get out of his system, and you're just there to listen so that he can feel, kind of press that steam button, that release button, and just like hold that for a while, and then he's going to move on.
He is, again, such an absolutely interesting creator, because what do we always say? Don't put a hat on a hat. His lyrics are on the nose and specific and absolutely what they need to be. He doesn't try to do shit with his voice that he can't do. He knows exactly what his cue zone is. He knows where he's gonna hit one out of the park. And around that, it allows him to take way more chances than maybe would be afforded to someone that was like really needing to rely on putting out club bangers, right? He just happens to make very danceable, high energy shit that is also like fulfilling stylistically because it's all different. This song, it reminded me of White Lines by Mel Mel, which makes sense because it's another cocaine reference. Very synthy, very dance pop. Swedish House Mafia is on this one. It's just a great, like, it's a mindfuck in the way that it's doing that 80s sound, but it's somehow not aping it and making it sound like a parody. Like, how much 80s inspired stuff have you heard that just makes you groan because it's like trying way too fucking hard? And it doesn't do that here.
It's more rare than people think that you get when something's got a throwback sound. You know, the Silk Sonics of the world kind of taking that 70s soul and R&B, like that's way more rare that it's successful like that. There's a million, you know, the road to quality throwback music is littered with the dead bodies of everybody else that's tried to do it before. You know, it is not an easy thing to do. And I feel like he weaves very seamlessly between that like kind of 80s synth pop, like that kind of soul vibe that you might get from like the 70s and like today's current like kind of dance music. But there's also been this kind of, especially with the Dua Lipa album, you know, the Future Nostalgia album, there's been this kind of throwback to almost that disco sort of sound, which he definitely gets into on this album as well. He's got a coat of many colors, you know, and I think he does a very good job at making sure that you see every one of those with every project that he does.
And it's totally seamless. It's not like two songs fighting with each other. It's not a song with the sensibilities of 2022 trying to strong arm a synthwave song from 1980, and it's just none of it works. It's a totally seamless hybrid, which again, I really appreciate, because I think some people have a weird Weeknd thing where they just think he's like generic radio bullshit. And I'm like, that is to miss the entire point of the Weeknd.
Yes.
You're selling him so fucking short. Because, full admission here, the first two times through this album, I was like, I don't think I love it more than After Hours. And the more I listened to it, I was like, I stand by liking After Hours better, but by just like a razor thin margin, because I loved After Hours. This really fucking grew on me. And a big thing, too, that I'd like to point out about the songs that we picked to talk about and the order that they fall in on the album, when I say he's totally dedicated to theme, even when he doesn't like fucking mean for it to happen, it happens. There's a thematic through line in literally the order of the songs you and I picked. So this album, the concept of it is the ego death, purgatory. It's the moment, like, not to be crass and like, but he's talked about this himself, but with his cocaine abuse, with his overdoses, you could very well see him having the one. And this album is what he experiences as he's gradually crossing over. It's like Dewey Cox has to think about his whole entire life before he plays the show. It's that kind of thing. So if we're looking at it as like...
Wrong kid, Dad.
I didn't realize how easy it was to get cut in half by a machete. Just railroaded my entire point.
You did it to yourself.
I pulled my own pin and stood there holding the grenade. It's a radio station from purgatory, okay, guys? That's the concept. And the Weeknd's thinking about everything he's ever done and the person that he was and is and always hoped he'd be, and just going on this ride. So How Do I Make You Love Me is him singing a song about unrequited love when the woman doesn't love him back. All he wants to do is like, he's literally asking the question, how do I make you love me? I love you so much. I got to make this work. What do I got to do? So the first step in our theme, it's all about these relationships, because There's a song we don't talk, or an interlude we don't talk about with Quincy Jones, talking about generational trauma and familial abuse and stuff like that. And that's very prevalent through this whole thing is love, affection, how you get it, how you give it. So thus begins the little Out on That Line side quest for this episode.
Yes, it was a really excellent way, I think, to start this episode. That's not the first song on the album, but I feel like this one, the only reason that I didn't pick one earlier than this on the album is because this is the first one that really allowed me to kind of slide right in and where I became really locked in on the album. Now the next one, Take My Breath, I believe is one of your picks.
This one is all about carnal love, the naughty type. First of all,
imagine that you would pick the Nookie song.
The Nookie Jam.
Yeah.
Hey, man, we had a rough time. We had to miss a week. We're getting back into our fighting form. I'm coming in hot and heavy with sex songs this year. Going out of my way this time to make myself a parody. An ironic detachment from the subject matter, not unlike Frank Zappa, because that bit also lives on.
I was going to ask you, actually. I was record shopping, and there was an album that was a concert by Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart.
Oh, Bongo Fury.
So you've heard of it. Okay.
Yeah, it's the two of them sitting together on the front, right? They're smoking ciggies and drinking coffee. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a great album. That's an awesome
I just wasn't sure
album.
if you knew about it. I was waiting for you to bring up Frank Zappa, and I was like, that's going to be my end to tell him about that.
Well, there we go. Bit achieved. Achievement unlocked. This song, Take My Breath. Pure dark wave dance energy, and we're talking about some kinky shit. It's the breath play is the very polite way that they put it. I call it doing nitrous and autoerotic asphyxiation. But like, it's such a. This is the thing that I love about The Weeknd is it's just take my breath, that fucking hook, and sometimes you just got to beat the beat up, and you're just you're in it. But then you look at what the song's about, and it's like, yeah, I've been doing cocaine for so long that I can't get the high off of it that I used to. So I need to take the next logical step, and I'm going to almost die so that when I come back to life, I'll feel this intense euphoria and be grateful to be alive, and I'm going to chase that high now. So strap a mask to me and take my breath. And we're also going to fuck after this because we're going to have so many chemicals firing in our brains.
The ultimate drug.
That's just what I call Tuesday night.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, I don't even know if in my best days I could have partied with The Weeknd. I don't think there's any time in my life that I would have been capable of doing that.
No, fuck no. I was not a cocaine guy, so first roadblock right there.
Yeah, strike one. I think that's strike 1, 2, and 3 for both of us. Yeah. I feel like that's the main one that you're missing.
Yeah, sorry, dude. We'll drive you to Whataburger after, but that's my role.
But you know, this one I think is exactly like you said. I got so much, more than anything else. I got very like 80s synth pop, like The Cure maybe. You know, just very much like had that feel. Where all of this stuff, the only thing authentic in this song was him and his storytelling. I think that's part of why he does that a little bit, is because it allows him, by playing this character, and each of the albums has that different, seems like it has that different character on the front of them. I think playing that character allows him to be more honest, be like, well, this isn't me personally. What's his name? Like Abel or something like that? What's his real name?
Abel, and I don't remember his last name. Starts with a T. I know that.
Yeah, so it's not Abel, it's The Weeknd.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, I feel like he really uses that as the character. You know, the same way that Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak slip into the character of Silk Sonic, you know, and really embody that. I feel like there's much more truth in The Weeknd as a character of Abel, but it's allows him that freedom to like really say what's on his mind, even if it's crazier than what he's actually feeling. I feel like that expression allows him the release that he needs out of all these songs, which he clearly needs one, or he wouldn't write music like this.
Yeah, and again, following our theme, this is him popping off sexually. It's just like a lustful, carnal love. So this whole thing, to me, again, is organized around relationships. The ones you had, the ones you never had, the ones you fucked up, the ones that were perpetrated against you, ones you weren't necessarily psyched to be a part of, but you had a role to play in all of them. So the album kind of plays out like these different vignettes, like the the ghost of relationships past, except not a shitty Matthew McConaughey movie. But it's just so cool that he does that, and we haven't even touched on the broadcasts, the interstitial material with the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Should we reveal who the narrator is, or should we wait?
I feel like we should wait till the last one.
Okay.
Because the last one's a doozy.
Yeah, it sure is.
A doozy for sure.
Yeah.
So the next song, Sacrifice. Now, this was one that I chose because this one kind of gave me the most Weeknd vibes on the album. Like, this is one that I think you could have found on After Hours, that you could have found on whatever other Weeknd album from the last like 4 or 5 years that you wanted to. This song could have fit in there. And the reason I wanted to bring up something, even though it's familiar, the reason I wanted to talk about it was because he still has his identity as an artist. He might go way off the reservation sometimes, but he's still got that central, kind of nucleus that makes up what made him really popular and famous in the first place. And it's that ability to merge his lyrics with a banger dance song. And I think that is one of the most important things for allowing him the freedom to continue to do what he does, is having these ones that are the successful, radio friendly kind of hits. But he does them so well that it's not like he's just doing this because he knows, like, oh, I need a popular song, I need to sell this record, I need to put this out. He makes a good one when he does that. It's the same level of craftsmanship, like with Future Nostalgia, to bring that one up again. That album was a pure, perfect pop album. And this is right in line with that kind of style and that sort of music.
This is his Thriller. Thriller's fucking fingerprints are all over this one. And not like, oh, he's trying to make it sound like Thriller, but it had that same, in terms of like the placement on the album, what's going to be that level of a song. The song Thriller on Thriller. Like, that's the moment where you pull out all the stops, right? And that's what this song... A fucking EDM song has no business being this funky.
No.
It hurts my feelings a little bit because it should not work. And it's this, like, eminently danceable... It's not even just like, yeah, wave your hands over your head and jump up. Like, you have to dance to this. You have to, like, put a little coordination into this. Yes, you're rolling on Molly, but you're also going to try to do some little kind of two-step to this. You gotta. You gotta.
This is probably the song that I'll go back to the most on this album.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely one of them at least. If I'm not listening to the whole album and I just want to pick one or two, like, Sacrifice is definitely going to be one of them. Now the next one is one of your picks, Out of Time.
This is if you've listened to the album, you had to know I was going to pick this one. This one is smooth as all.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. It's sampling the song Midnight Pretender by Tomoko Aram. This song is classic 80s. Again, it's borrowing a sample that sticks the fuck out. Normally you'd be like, well, don't you want the sample to, like, contribute to the song and not overpower it? It's like, no. I didn't say that the sample is overpowering anything. I said it's sticking out like a feature. This is an instance of putting a hat on a hat where that's a good thing.
Yes.
And you all need to realize that sometimes the exception proves the rule. You guys were so foolish to be so rigid and paradigmatic in your thinking. Because it's fucking awesome. It's a great sample. The fucking pre-chorus into the chorus on this song is perfection. And it's a song about tearful regret. All the things you missed out on. Our time is over. We're out of time. And again, a song that sounds like this shouldn't be this angsty, and it all shouldn't work, but it does.
And can I say that using Drowning Eyes as a replacement for, like, Teary Eyes, crying, what a genius little trick there. I mean, we're talking about how he's not like that complicated of a songwriter, but that right there, that was pretty clever.
That shows some thought put into it. You know what I mean? He could
Yes.
have just said crying eyes, teary eyes, wet eye,
Yeah.
whatever the fuck, drowning eyes. So many tears, your eyes are drowning. That's
Yeah.
he tried. Again, he's not the greatest lyricist on the planet pound for pound, but who gives a fuck? He
Yeah.
puts thought into it. He does his
Yeah.
best.
Once in a while, he catches one right on the barrel,
Yep.
and it's out of the park. That was definitely one of them. But this one, yeah, it's smooth. I mean, it just, I don't know if there's a better way to describe it when I was listening to it. And this one and the next one that we had picked, and we'll when we get to that one in a minute, I got the same kind of sense from both of them, that it was just a little bit reserved, a little bit more held back, especially after like Sacrifice being, more of the kind of banger. It's nice to see him flexing all of his muscles and being very soulful and, kind of just very vulnerable is one of his main muscles. And I think that's something that he makes sure that he hits, because he did that on After Hours. He's done that on every one of his albums, but I think he does it very well. And I think it's not because he knows, again, like when he did Sacrifice, he's not making that song because he's like, oh, this is, I need a pop song, I need a dance song. He's not making this one because he's like, I need a smooth song, I need an R&B song. He's making it because it's serving his emotions and his needs at the moment. And it's just, that's the style of music that seemed to fit best with what he was trying to express. I think he's just very good at tastefully choosing kind of when to fire each gun.
The fact that he would go, you're right. He doesn't go, oh, I need. He just asks himself, I wonder what would happen if. I wonder what would happen if I took a Japanese jazz pop song from the 80s and layered it over this ultra smooth, ultra pensive song that is essentially about two people that ran out of time. They're not going to make it, and it's because they fucked around and took each other for granted, and that's it. It's time to fish or cut bait, and they're done.
Mm-hmm.
Again, all those elements are not like jammed in there because he's like, oh, I think that'd make a good song that would be commercially viable. It's, again, I wonder what would happen if, and he just shows it to us. What do you guys think of this? Huh? Sniff, snort. So that the impression's realistic.
I mean, I think just in general, I think he's just putting himself together a very, very good career in music. I mean, just like, it seems like every project he's done is pretty solid. There's some that are better than others, After Hours being one of the best. But and I think, like you were saying, this one doesn't quite get to that level for me, but it's close. Like, it was a really, really enjoyable listen. The whole time I felt like this was a Weeknd album. I was very surprised how quick it came out. It seemed like we just talked about the last one. But like you said, time is a flat circle, and it seems to fly by when you can't really leave your house. It's just songs like Out of Time, songs like Sacrifice. Those are all ones that it's like, it's pure Weeknd, but they're so totally different from each other. And I think that's what he does best, is he's like, I'm not one thing. I'm going to be a lot of things. And you get a song like Out of Time and you're like, damn, he's still got that bullet in the chamber ready to go.
He's just so massively entertaining,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to like shit on anyone in particular, and it's not a particularly original thought to have, but the people that are forced down your throat on mainstream radio, and you can't say all of them are untalented, but like, whenever they're trying to market to you something that they already know everybody like, it's like, I'd liken it to like Marvel movies,
Mm-hmm.
where like, I see them, I have fun, I saw the new Spider-Man, that was fun, I had a fun time at that. So like, I enjoy these things, I consume them as well, but it's definitely like the only thing really being offered in the pop cultural zeitgeist. So, and it's not like if you want to fit in, you got to do it. It's more just like, this is what's most readily and prominently available to you that's getting produced these days. And then you have weirdos on the fringes who are making movies like Red Rocket and The Northman, and then like higher profile people like Paul Thomas Anderson making Licorice Pizza.
Yeah.
And just kind of like giving you something different that came out of what was interesting to them, not what has tested well time and time again. And The Weeknd, I think, is a guy who's always got a surefire hit in the pocket, and he's not worried about it coming together. He's just going to do what he likes, and one of them is going to take off. He's just insanely entertaining for that reason.
Yes. Yeah. He's super duper good. The next song, Less Than Zero. Now, this one felt like another one slowed it right down. It's the penultimate song on the album. So I feel like they're kind of easing you out maybe as the night closes in. It's kind of easing you out the door. And I think what I took from the album title, Dawn FM, is that, you look at purgatory as kind of like the dawn of your life. You have the morning when you're born, the day when you're alive, and then as things start to come to a close, night is closing in, dawn is right between the two. That's the kind of purgatory area. And I think that's what it is. And this is kind of, the whole thing feels like you're kind of shuffling along with this story, all the things that he's coming to terms with at the end. And I think this song, Less Than Zero, is when he kind of recognizes everything as a totality, right? As the end is really drawing near, he's kind of recognizing everything, seeing it very clear. Dewey Cox has seen his whole life, and he's ready for whatever's next.
He's ready for Eddie Vedder to give that amazing Hall of Fame induction speech that I wish I could do off the top of my head right now so bad. I owe it to you guys. But yeah, this is again, album placement, and we're doing our through line. So this is two people that are kind of mutually cursed for this relationship not to work out. And it's got The Weeknd to the point where he's like, I'm less than nothing. That's a great Waxahachie song, Less Than. You're less than me, I am nothing. So he's doing the same thing here. He's like, I am less than zero. Fun fact, Less Than Zero, also a Bret Easton Ellis book, later made into a movie with Robert Downey Jr., Less Than Zero, about rampant cocaine use. So there's a fun little alternate level to the song. But it's about the meltdown of a relationship and his self-destruction. And the album is melting down, not in like a conscious tonal way, like kind of the way Sloppy Jane Madison towards the end. I don't want to say the wheels came off in a negative way, but it just like kind of gave itself room to turn into a monster. Phoebe Bridgers by the end of I Know the End. Like a sense of like when the album can kind of just like let out a last barbaric yop before we close it out. And that's kind of what this song is. It's very tender, and it's got this like angelic backing chorus as though the angels are like, okay, time to go. This is finally it. Traffic's moving. You're unstuck. Coming with us. So it's this weird song that like dislodges you from the entire trip. And it's another song that just fucks. It's tender, and it's and it rocks.
This one, I think next to Sacrifice might be my favorite one.
Oh, it's great.
On the album. It just, I mean, it's, I don't know. I've really been on a kick where I've been listening to a lot of pretty aggressive music. I've been listening to a lot of Turnstile, a lot of Against Me, even been doing some Slipknot, here and there. Yeah, really, really just pretty aggressive music lately. But this one just hit me right in the right way, right in the sweet spot. It just was a really nice song at the end. And I think it is, he's just coming to terms with the fact that it is the end. He's like, I try to hide it, but I know you know me. I try to fight it, but I'd rather be free. I'll always be less than zero. You tried your best with me. I know. It's kind of like he's given, not so much given up, but feels like he's just hit all the effort he was able to muster has been expended. And whatever he could try to do to fix this, he has done. And now he's comfortable to just kind of drift off into the great nothing.
And yeah, the life force is kind of leaving him in this, and his will to do something about it is leaving him as that happens. And it's just, he's admitting that he can't change. You tried with me. You tried. You loved me enough to try to let me see the potential in myself. And now as I lay here dying, I realize like that was a huge waste of your time. I could never change. It's a fucking downer thought to have before the last song on the album, which isn't even a song and does not feature The Weeknd in any way. It reminds me, for my musical theater nerds out there, at the end of Les Mis, where the ghosts show up and Valjean's all fucked up and dying in bed, and it's that last to love another person is to see the face of God, and then it just kind of fades out, and they come in with the "Do you hear the people sing" reprise. So it's like main tension over, our main character's dead. Now we got to wrap up the show. So it doesn't end with the main character kind of passing on. It's there's one last trick left in the bag, and that's the last song on the album, "Phantom Regret" by Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Do you want to reveal?
no, you go ahead. Tell us who the special Jim is.
Well, folks, it's a man that I think if you're a fan of this show, and certainly amongst our friend group, that been very famous in our circles, and I think very famous in everybody's circles. It's Jim Carrey, one of the greatest comedic actors of our generation, of any generation, really. And it's all an entire spoken word, just poem. And the way it flows and the way it goes is so mesmerizing, so interesting. The turns of phrase that happen during this whole soliloquy are just really, truly incredible. I really, really like this.
There's references to Prince. There's references to Mark Bolan and T-Rex. And first of all, you could have knocked me over with a goddamn feather when we got to the end, and I'm looking at Genius. I'm like, this is Jim Carrey? Are you fucking kidding me? Because he's been narrating this whole thing, and I just like did not pick up on it. He did such a good job of like not doing a voice, but just being so subtle and so smooth that it took me until the end to be like, that was fucking Jim Carrey this entire time. And he does a really good job. This is like that bittersweet benediction at the end where the Weeknd is getting ready to cross over. The whole album is culminating here. And it's the full consummation of the ego death. And it's narrated by Jim Carrey. And it's fucking beautiful. I want to get some lyrics up here. Because it is, like you said, the turn of phrase and just the level of intensity to it. So let's say, you're tuned to Dawn FM, the middle of nowhere on your dial. So sit back and unpack. You may be here for a while. Now that all future plans have been postponed, and it's time to look back on the things you thought you owned. Do you remember them well? Were you high or just stoned? And how many grudges did you take to your grave? When you weren't liked or followed, how did you misbehave? Was it often a dissonant chord you were strumming? Were you ever in tune with the song Life was humming? We said that he's not like the ultimate lyricist, right? He sure is the goddamn ultimate poet.
Shit, dude. This, I think, blows any sort of like criticism about his lyrics out of the water. Like, all you have to do is point to this because every single bit of it just fits so well. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that Jim Carrey delivered it.
Yeah.
It is so perfectly. You're so in that mode of this is a late night, like I'm picking up an AM station or I guess FM here, but this is like a late night thing that like I'm not supposed to really be hearing. You know, it's like when you pick up those stations, I don't know if you ever, maybe I'm just older than you enough that you might not have done this, but you know, when you have the radio dial and you at night, like you get a lot clearer signal on a lot of the AM stations. So you can pick up a lot of stuff out of like Toronto and things like that. Like if it's flat from them to you, you can pick it up basically. And you'd hear this stuff late at night that had no context to what you were doing, to what you were like, what your life was like. It's just like very weird things. And you just were finding what you could to be entertained. And this reminded me so much. It's so perfect in the way that it's constructed that it fits that mold so well. It is a radio station that you're listening to, and it's welcoming you to this purgatory. You know, it's like it could be good or bad, but really depends on you, pal. You know, it's one of those. It really was an interesting thing because, like, what if this is what it's like? Wouldn't surprise me.
If this is what it's like, then we're damn lucky because it's so calm and comforting. Like imagining that voice, the way that they've like produced and pitched Jim Carrey's voice, the way he's delivering it, it's just like so peaceful, and all the music around it, it really is like you've been stuck in this purgatory and now you get to cross over. You have to leave your human life behind. You have to leave all your concerns, your neuroses. You've got to leave that shit to transcend. So here's all the stuff I want you to think about. But he's literally asking all of these questions as you're slipping away and dying. Like the song is ending, this life is ending, and all these existential questions are coming. And in the end, they don't even really get answered because the moral of the story is, don't worry about it now. You have to completely leave it behind. So here we go. May you find peace. And in that, done. The lyrics on this could have been way up their own ass, you know, trying to say something profound about life and death as one lay dying, right? There's nothing up its own ass. He's not trying too hard. He's not reaching for anything. None of it is like gobbledygook platitude. Like imagine Dave Grohl trying to write this. What it would be like. He would just sit there and he'd be like, I offered my honor, she honored my offer, and all night long I was honor and offer. And that would be the big ending to Dave Grohl's existential crisis. This was a hell of a way to end it because it reminds you that, I mean, right now, obviously you got to work on yourself. You have to figure out what's life affirming. You have to make sure that you find affection and acceptance in this world, obviously. But at the end of your life, you can't take anything with you, including any of your psychological baggage. So just leave it behind and find peace. It's just over. As soon as that's done, it's perfect.
Yeah. And I'll bet you Jim Carrey loved every bit of recording this.
Oh, sure.
Like, because I don't know how many interviews you've watched of his or anything recently, but that dude is off the deep end. Like,
Did you watch that Jim and Andy documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that dude is out of his damn mind. And I think in a good way. You know, I think he thinks of things on a way different plane of existence than any of the rest of us do. I think he's just like decided he's like, I'm not going to exist in this celebrity world, in this celebrity culture. Like, I'm going to exist in my own space. And once in a while, if those Venn diagrams overlap, then I'll exist there too, but I'm never leaving my space again.
He was, I mean, not to hijack the Weeknd discussion for Jim Carrey, but he's an interesting guy. Like you said, he's pretty over the top and he is kind of vibing on a different plane. But he's a smart guy. I think, like, you know, you talk out of your ass and, you know, fart and play with animals in your mainstream movies. People don't take you seriously. I'd like to ask you a question.
Do not go in there.
But you must be the Monopoly guy. He's tremendously funny and he's really smart. And, you know, you don't have to agree with everything he says because he said some wild shit about vaccines for a while. To keeping in theme of our episode. You don't have to agree with everything he said, but he is a smart, very emotional, intuitive guy. So to your point, I can only imagine the Weeknd offering him this and him being overjoyed because he's like, here's someone in the industry who gets what life is all about. This isn't just some shameless cash grab. This is a collaboration. This is something cool I could do. So I bet it was right up his alley. I hope it was. I hope they had a good time.
Yeah, because I certainly had a good time. This album, stream it, baby.
Enthusiastic stream it. Like I said, the first time and a half through, I was like, I don't know. It doesn't really have its hooks in me, but sit with it. Really sit with it. Put it on fucking loud. And it's an enthusiastic stream it from me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our second episode of the new year.
Yeah.
I think a solid album. Here. We're going to have our Meatloaf episode next. We're going to have... Do we want to spoil what the other one coming up is?
Yeah, fuck it, because I'm bursting at the seams.
Yes, the new Mitski album is going to be out. So you're going to run into Meatloaf, right into Mitski. That takes us through our next few weeks. And if you haven't noticed, folks, Alex is blowing up a little bit over there on that there YouTube. Over 7,000 views in the last few weeks on videos that you've posted. That's just 2 of them. A few others have several hundred views. You know, we're over 10,000 views total on that YouTube page these days. We're inching closer to 100 subscribers, which is kind of mind-boggling to me that it just seems like it's a snowball picking up steam and picking up mass. And it's doing no small part to the efforts on the video. So I wanted to get it on the pod, on the recording for the people to hear and get some appreciation out there for my co-host and the work he does putting up those videos, because they're not easy to do. If you noticed, I haven't released very many of them compared to what he's done, because they're tough to put together, and he seems to knock them out, and they consistently are doing very well on there.
They're a lot of fun. Thank you. I appreciate that, Geoff. But it's like, it's very fun to do. It's very gratifying. We have a lot of fucking chatty Cathys in the comments on there. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. It's cool that people are getting into our shit, man. Like, we started this with 0 followers and no advantages whatsoever. You literally came to me in the pandemic and were like, we should start doing a music podcast. I think that'd be a fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it has proven to be an absolutely fun thing to do. So it's really gratifying to see people kind of organically show up and say, yeah, we dig this. It's really fucking cool. So
yes,
thank you to everyone that participates in this. And I realized, oh, closing in on 100, big spender. It's like, that means a lot to us coming from the absolute dirt zero nowhere. So yeah. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's nice to ride the wave on the way up. You know, it's been a good ride so far. We got a brand new year here, 2022. We're going to look to improve even more on what we've already been giving you, but that's where we need you to come in, folks. We need ideas for those reaction videos that have been doing so well. We need videos. We need ideas for our regular podcast. I think we've got the singles videos to be kind of what we choose to do. I think we're keeping that our own individual little niche. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the stuff, we really want to hear what you folks want to hear. So you tell us if there's some new song that you think is just the craziest thing you've ever heard. You want to see what we think of it, send it to us and we'll do a reaction video. If you think there's an album that is the most groundbreaking thing, changed your life, let us know and we'll talk about it on the podcast. If there was something you hated, we'll kind of use editorial privilege on that one, whether we want to do an album that we hate. But let us know. You know, the thing that has really helped us improve is the feedback. So keep it coming. You know, mostly the positive stuff, but if there's some negative stuff you feel is warranted, let us know that too. We've got pretty thick skin. And we've just been having a really good time, so we appreciate y'all.
It's so much fun when people come through and offer us stuff that they want us to listen to. So it's not like, oh yeah, you're people pleasing. You're listening to new shit you wouldn't have listened to before, which is awesome. If you love music, that's like the most fun you can have.
Yeah, we're trying to plow our own road here, and many hands makes light work. So the more that you guys get involved, the easier things get for us. The more you hear what you want to hear, there's a lot of synergy going on here, folks, is what I'm getting at. So you keep telling us what you want to hear. We'll keep putting out as much content as we possibly can. And make sure you get us on Instagram, because we're still there. We're still on Twitter, Out on That Line on Instagram, Out on That Line at 1 on Twitter. You could send us an email, outonthatline@gmail.com, and leave comments on that YouTube. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. And if there's any other like video series or anything that you think we should start doing, we've got our singles videos, we've got our reaction videos, we've got our regular podcast. We're working on getting video podcasts, but we're limited by the technology on my end. So once we get that figured out, look for those. But it's really, we're looking forward to this year. I think it's going to be a really positive experience for everybody involved. And Alex, was there anything else that you want to talk about this week?
God knows life is chaos, but he made one thing true. You got to unwind your mind, train your soul to align, and dance till you find that divine boogaloo. In other words, you got to be heaven to see heaven. May peace be with you.